I'm Karen Schofield, and I'm filling in for Evelyn Harris, who is a singer. I am not singing. I'm a poet, which is really bold of New England Public Radio to do. This poem is called Wait 5 Minutes. I duck into the visitor center and shake the water off my jacket. The woman behind the desk asks if the rain stopped. When I say not yet, she says, if you don't like the weather here, just wait 5 minutes. Well, isn't that true? I reply. What I like about the 5-minute statement is that it's always said with the air of a grand but knowable secret being given away. It takes both people speaking their lines, nodding and smiling at just the right times. I like the predictability of it, and when someone says it to me, which is often, I play right along as if it were new and wondrous, a thing to be turned over and over. Sometimes I'm even the one to start it, and the other person will look at me with an air of gratitude and say, well, isn't that true? How much fonder could I get of humanity? In New England, it's as close as we get to hugging. Another batch of visitors comes in, and I can feel my heart swell. Soon enough, we'll greet each other. Outside, the rain goes on and on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, cousins, all of us, welcome to the 10th annual New England Public Radio Arts and Humanities Awards. Thank you for coming out. My name is Kari Njiri, and I work at New England Public Radio for a number of years now. Thank you. I'm a producer of Jazz Safari, which is heard Saturday nights. Thank you. You listen to the radio on Saturday nights. How sad. But thank you. During my other job, my day job, I host the local host for All Things Considered, and usually I'd be at the studios right now, but I'm glad to be with you on this evening, this joyous occasion. Beautiful spring weather. Isn't it beautiful? Spring is finally here. And I just took off my snow ties the other day. I think we can safely assume winter's gone. But glad to be with you to celebrate this year's recipients and the lively art scene here in Western New England. Let me just take a minute just to appreciate Ms. Karen Schofield, who opened this evening's program with that beautiful poem. Thank you. You know, Karen received the Arts and Humanities Award in 2015, and she graciously agreed to step in this evening when Evelyn Harris was unable to attend. We tried to convince her to sing, but she just said, no. She is the first of many familiar faces that you'll see and hear from tonight on this 10th anniversary celebration. So again, thank you, Karen Schofield, for welcoming us with a poem. We have a great program in store with music and food and your good company. And right now, it's my pleasure to welcome Angelica Moline, the president of the New England Public Radio Foundation, and Martin Miller, our CEO and general manager, to kick off this evening's event. Angelica and Martin.
Welcome, everybody. We're so happy that you're here on this beautiful, beautiful sunny day to celebrate with us this evening. Now in its 10th year, the New England Public Radio Arts and Humanities Award was created to recognize the accomplishments of artists, musicians, writers, and thinkers in our community who work alongside New England Public Radio every day to make life here in Western New England enriching for so many. New England Public Radio strives to reflect the rich cultural landscape through its programming, daily jazz and classical music, Tom Reaney's Jazz Beat podcast, and the newly minted Presto podcast with John Nowacki. Stories about local artists, poets, and writers, specials like our new Spring Music series, and exciting live programs like the Valley Voices Story Slam series and Vault sessions, which invite local and touring musicians to tape a set in front of the impressive Bank Vault at NEPR's Springfield studio. And if any of you have not had the opportunity to come down to 1525 Main Street and see the studio, please do, and please take a look at the vault because it's really pretty awesome. The Arts and Humanities Award honors those in our community whose passion and creativity contributes to the common goal of making our region a better place to live. I'd like to take a moment to thank the people who made tonight's event possible and my many colleagues on the NEPR Foundation Board, especially the Community Engagement Committee, which was responsible for this event, led by its chair, Dr. Stephen Wittenberg. And I know, Stephen, I saw you out there. Can you? There he is, he's right there. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you to the committee. I just want you to know that this committee spends hours reviewing the nominations and making the final selections for the awards. It's really a big job, and we really appreciate all that they do. It's a lot of volunteer work, and we thank the committee for that. To organize the event, the board had the support of NEPR's marketing and development teams. Thank you to all of the NEPR staff who are here tonight, especially Rima Dahl, who is our new Executive Director of Development. I don't know, Rima, are you there somewhere? I can't see anything up there. Roxy Pinn, who is our Senior Major Gifts Officer. Maybe Roxy can say hello. And of course, our own and beloved Vanessa Cirillo, the Executive Director of Marketing Communications, who puts this entire event together and does an amazing job. So thank you to all of them. We also want to thank Peter Roscoten and the entire staff at the Log Cabin, all you folks back there, thank you. You all do a wonderful job. We've been very pleased to be here for many years, and it's always a pleasure. Klondike Sound of Greenfield, Springfield's Flowers, our media sponsors, the Daily Hampshire Gazette and Holyoke Media. Josh Simpson, who created the marvelous awards we'll be giving out this evening, and who actually won the Arts and Humanities Award himself in 2012. The Eric Bascom Quartet, also known as the Arts and Humanities Award House Band, whom you'll hear later at dinner tonight. And I hope you all have your dancing shoes on because they're wonderful, and it's wonderful to swing to their tunes. And of course, Crew LeGras, who welcomed you with some great brass. So a big thank you to them for the great job that they did. And of course, a very big thank you to this evening's sponsors, UMass Amherst, Northfield Mount Hermon, Smith College, the Kinsley Group, Gail and Michael Yaffe, Sally and Stephen Wittenberg, and Amanda Walling and Boris and Ben Wolfson. Thank you to all of them. And thank you to all of you for being here tonight. We have a huge group. We're really pleased at how many of you gave up your beautiful evening to be with us. So thank you for that. But before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to honor one of our own NEPR Foundation advisors who has had an incredible impact on New England Public Radio and also on the lives of so many in our region. In fact, she was nominated herself for this year's Arts and Humanities Awards for her impressive and enduring presence on the region's cultural scene. I'm guessing that many of you might know who I'm talking about, and that's Miss Kathy Service. I think this is a surprise for Kathy. Where is she? Where's Kathy? Kathy, can you raise your hand?
There she is.
Oh, great, okay. For decades, Kathy has been a tireless supporter of the arts in the Pioneer Valley. For visual, performing arts, and music, she's been an active organizer and promoter, a volunteer at every level from Turner's Falls to Northampton. Come on up, Kathy.
Oh my God.
I ran into her on the way up here today, and she had no idea she was getting this, so this is a great surprise. Her enthusiasm and passion for the arts and her devotion to her volunteer work have helped many of the artists in the region to thrive and have created audiences for their work. She takes genuine pleasure, not only in witnessing and enjoying the art, but in the role of supporting it, nurturing it as well. Kathy also serves on many boards, including Northampton Arts Culture, Northampton Center for the Arts, and the Highland Valley Elder Services, and as an advisor on our own NEPR Foundation Board. She has been an incredible asset to the NEPR Foundation, both in reviewing nominations and sharing her deep knowledge of the arts with the Committee for the Arts and Humanities Awards. And also, as our event producer, Vanessa Cirillo can certainly attest, Kathy's been behind the scenes at NEPR events throughout the year, hauling tables, coiling cable, that one I really didn't understand, coiling cable, okay, decorating and undecorating Christmas trees, and literally doing any other tasks to help get the job done, including graciously offering to pick up Karen Grisby Bates from the airport last night. So they're friends already. So it is with much appreciation and gratitude that we recognize Kathy this evening. And there's something for you. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Martin. All yours.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Angelica, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be here, especially after sitting at home for 3 weeks. I had my hip replaced. You'll see me, my little crutch over there, and I call it drive-through hip replacement. They took me in at 10:30 in the morning, and I was home at 5:30. So it was pretty amazing. Thank you, Angelica, for your many contributions as our board president. And thank you again, Kathy. I think every time I go to an event in the Valley, Kathy Service is there. So she's just been amazing. In this, our 10th anniversary year, we are thrilled to have many past recipients here with us tonight. As I recognize you, please stand. And I ask that everyone else please hold your applause until all of our past recipients have been recognized. Poet Karen Schofield. The Springfield Museums, represented by President Kay Simpson. Painter Matthew Mitchell. Art guitarist Peter Blanchette, whom you'll have the opportunity to hear later tonight. The Charter Oak Cultural Center, represented tonight by Rabbi Donna Berman. Glass artist Josh Simpson. Gary Bernice of the SciTech Band. The Community Music School of Springfield, represented by Eileen McCaffrey and Sierra Simmons. Poet Maria Luisa Arroyo. Community Access to the Arts, represented by Margaret Keller. Children's book author Ty Allen Jackson. Steve Hayes of the Drama Studio. And the Amherst Cinema Arts Center, represented by Carol Johnson and Rachel Hart. I hope you're all standing. We thank you. Our stage director would like the lights turned up. I don't know if we can do that. Okay, we'll keep going. Anyway, thank you all. We appreciate you being here with us tonight on our 10th anniversary. We are also honored to have Karen Grigsby Bates with us this evening. She's one of the hundreds of local, national, and internationally based reporters that help us see the world more clearly through their reporting. Not only do we turn to NPR for the day's political news, but we are enriched by the stories that we get in the arts and culture space, the space we are celebrating here tonight. We are lucky to live in a part of the world that values community and nurtures a vibrant art scene, and encourages connections to be made and partnerships to flourish. I hope that you'll take some time this evening to meet each other, to perhaps make some new connections, and that this event helps to inspire creativity and may even create a few new sparks. Thank you for coming to celebrate our 10th anniversary of Arts and Humanities with us. We hope that what you find on New England Public Radio will continue to inspire you. Radio from Chopin to Coltrane to our newsroom's local art author series to Karen Grisby Bates' next piece on NPR. Thank you for the support that you give us, and congratulations to Magdalena Gomez, Carolyn Kwan, the Literacy Project, and David Tibaldi. Again, have a great evening, and I hope to be able to chat with all of you if possible. Thank you.
I was going to make a crack about our hip general manager, but that just... Right, it was not a good one. Well, every day we turn to NPR for all kinds of information, from breaking news to interviews with leaders and influential people of all stripes, to investigative reporting that takes us to Syria, to Russia, to Korea, to Mexico, and places closer to home. And while we rely on NPR for the day's headlines and trusted political coverage, it is very often a different kind of story that keeps us in that car, that keeps us glued to the radio, the kind of story that gives us a connection to the wider world, or something to share at work or home with that proverbial line like, I heard it on NPR this morning. How many of us haven't said that? How many of us have said that? Yeah. Well, it's very often NPR's unique approach to arts and culture that gets our attention. Over the years, we've heard some outstanding reporting in this realm by Karen Grisby Bates, who's our special guest tonight. As an NPR news correspondent and member of the Code Switch team, Karen covers race, ethnicity, and culture for the network. Recently, she interviewed poet Kevin Brown about his new book of poems titled Brown. And she filed a piece about growing frustration with the museum world about what some see as a systemic problem of non-diversity when it comes to hiring for major positions. One of Karen's proudest contributions is making books and authors a high-profile part of NPR's coverage. She's had conversations with such writers as Walter Mosley, Joan Didion, and Kazuo Ishiguro. Her biannual book lists are listener favorites. Before coming to NPR, Karen was a news reporter for People magazine and a contributing columnist to the op-ed pages of the Los Angeles Times. Her work has appeared in Time, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Essence, and Vogue. In her non-NPR life, she's a mystery writer and co-author of Basic Black, Home Training for Modern Times, a best-selling etiquette book now in its second edition. And I just found out that even while she is a longtime resident of the Los Angeles area, she has her roots right here in New England. She's from Connecticut. We're excited to have Karen here with us tonight for a lively conversation with our own commentary editor, Tema Silk. So please join me in welcoming Karen and Tema to the stage.
Well, Karen, welcome to you. Thank you for schlepping all the way across the country for...
I'm so happy to be back in New England. You don't know. This is the kid that waits for it to snow every winter. That doesn't happen in LA.
Well, we're glad we can accommodate you. And
Maybe
we're glad
before I
it's not
leave.
snowing right now. Right, maybe. So we just got a nice introduction from Kari about your work, but in case people have not heard any stories from you, I would like to offer a very, very quick sampling of some of the things that you've done, starting with a story that you wrote about soldiers involved in the Abu Ghraib scandal, because you've done breaking news and among the many things that Kari listed. So we are going to hear first a very quick snippet from the Abu Ghraib story.
They were the snapshots seen round the world, photos of Iraqi prisoners made to face cameras naked and in humiliatingly compromising positions. Standing next to or beside their miserable trophies were Americans in fatigues. Some of the happy captors were women.
And as Kari mentioned, Karen's looked frequently and deeply into race-related matters in this country. As with this recent story, on the 50th anniversary of the report LBJ commissioned to look into the causes of the Detroit race riot.
The commission was populated with very mainstream politicians, civic and business leaders, but the conclusions it reached were pretty radical. Unless something was done, it famously warned, America was in danger of becoming two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. It was, says Princeton's Julian Zelizer, a pretty startling opinion at the time, and he says it's still pertinent.
Karen loves unearthing hidden history too. And she did that when marking another 50th anniversary. In this story, she's telling about the mother of Endicott Peabody. Some people may recognize that name, a governor here in Massachusetts. Mrs. Peabody made national headlines while protesting segregation in St. Augustine, Florida.
72-year-old Mary Peabody and a few other similarly powerful women flew down to St. Augustine, intending to demonstrate, but as a compromise to their worried families, not intending to be jailed. Eventually, though, they decided they had to join the protesters behind bars. We need some old people in this thing, she told reporters as she was led away. We're just what they say we are, do-gooders.
Karen, when you cover issues of race, you're identified, as Kari said, as a member of the Code Switch team. Mm-hmm. So can you talk to us a little bit about this team, how it works, what it does, how it got started?
NPR, I think, had been inching towards covering race for a while. It had a soul reporter that was doing that briefly. He left, and since I sort of incorporate race into a lot of what I do anyway, I said to his editor, if you guys are ever looking to replace him, then let me know. He might be here forever, he might not. And the phone rang one day and he said, so you still want to report on race? I said, yeah, why not? And he said, well, okay, it's your job. Hung up the phone. About a year later, I think they got a grant, or a series of grants maybe, to do it more widely. And so Code Switch was formed as a multiracial, multi-platform team that reported on race. So we started out on the radio and with a blog. A couple of years ago, we added a podcast, some of you all might have heard, and more recently, a newsletter. So we're on 4 different platforms in 5 different cities, if you count San Juan, because Adrian Florido has been loaned to the national desk for about 6 months to do follow-up reporting on what is, and maybe more importantly, isn't happening in Puerto Rico right now. And about 4 different generations, I being the elder sage of the group.
Is there anything in particular that you're working on together as a team at this point?
Not at this point, but we will be. We do it from time to time when NPR has requests. They do, cross-platform, cross-show projects, and we'll participate in that. And lots of times we will suggest things to them to say, did you know this is happening? Sometimes, at Code Switch, we kind of say, just because it has a person of color in it doesn't necessarily make it a Code Switch story. That's kind of water is wet. But when you have somebody who is doing something interesting and there's a racial angle to the story, and
there's, I mean, it often is a person of color who's involved in it. That's a code switch story. So we have done stories where there have been nothing but white people in it. You might have heard Whitney Dow, the filmmaker, the documentarian, has a project called the Whiteness Project, where he has gone to a couple of cities and talked to white people about being white, because he says that's an ethnicity too. And we're always acting like it isn't. You know, let's hear from them and hear some of what they're worried about and some of what they're pleased about. And so it doesn't, you know, most of our stories revolve around people of color and race to some degree, but not all of them.
I wish we could have hours and hours to talk about that, but we're going to move on because we have other things to talk about with you, especially one of your really true loves, which is covering books.
Yeah.
And I want to take one more little snippet of sound to hear you remembering the poet Gwendolyn Brooks on her 100th anniversary.
In 1950, Gwendolyn Brooks got the news of her Pulitzer Prize for poetry while sitting in the growing gloom of her living room. In a 1986 interview with the Library of Congress, Brooks confided she was in the dark because her electric bill hadn't been paid. So, amidst her jubilation about the Pulitzer, she worried about what would happen when word of her honor became public and the press descended upon her.
Next day, reporters came, photographers came with cameras, and I was absolutely petrified. I wasn't going to say anything about the electricity. I knew that when they tried to attach their cameras and all, nothing was going to happen.
Turned out, the photographers were able to plug in their lights because someone, Brooks never knew who, quietly paid the bill.
So you're going to doubtless, given who's here tonight, you're going to be preaching to the choir. But can you make the case for us why it's important for listeners to hear about the many authors that you've interviewed?
Well, I think it would be a pretty dull world if all we looked at was breaking news all the time. I had an editor. He was a British guy who was very firm in his opinions, and he said news is a staple. One has to have news, Karen. That's what we are, National Public Radio News. But we can't just have news. That would be like having a big plate of broccoli for dinner. And I said, well, some people do that all the time. They're called vegans and vegetarians. They might have. He didn't see the humor in that. So what do you want if you don't want the big plate of broccoli? I want joy sprinkled amongst the broccoli. I said, well, I don't know. I usually have butter on my broccoli, but that's fine. I think that books, whether they're fiction, nonfiction, poetry, biographies, bodice rippers, books, bring great joy to people. They also allow you to immerse yourself in a culture that is not necessarily yours and absorb it at your own pace. They take us to places we may never be able to afford to go, and they tell us stories about lives we don't know and are happy that we met after we finished the book. So I think there's always going to be a place for books. And even now, audiobooks. I usually read about 3 books a week every 10 days. One's what my father would call a real book, damn it, with covers and paper pages and stuff. One is usually an audiobook because you can do that while you walk the dog or empty the dishwasher or all the things mom ends up getting to do in the home. And the other one, I'm trying to think, maybe an ebook. Not always. Sometimes, like when I travel, I can't bring a whole big stack like this, but maybe you can read it on your Kindle and bring one book with you. So between those, the rotations of those, they tend to fill the bill.
It's because we're just about out of time, but I just want to say that it's because you're such a voracious reader, I think, what you've told me on the sidelines, is that's really part of why people turn to you to do more reporting on, well, or interviewing of authors, because you do so much reading, and so you read with your Catholic, very Catholic tastes in reading.
Yes, we'd
And
say I'm a
we-
promiscuous reader.
Promiscuous reader. So I want to thank you for that, first of all, that you're such a wonderful reader and have brought books more onto, brought that into our world more as listeners of NPR. And to thank you, we're really honored to have you here tonight, and to thank you for coming, but also to thank you for your really brilliant contributions to NPR.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for coming, and thank you for supporting public radio, because I think we support each other, and in times like this, it's really important that that continue, because there's whole parts of the world sometimes you don't hear in other places, and we're trying to jam it all in there. We may not always do it, but I think between our two organizations, we manage to do it most of the time.
Well, keep jamming on. is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
There was something, Karen, you said that books takes you places that that most of us, couldn't always afford, and that's something we can also speak about public radio. Takes us on journeys that we feel is beneficial to all of us. I know that's what it did for me when I was growing up, and just fascinated by the sound. But it's also true about the word. It takes you, and one of the nice things about this evening's event is that we are celebrating the word and with so many recipients, as well as the music. Magdalena Gomez was a vanguard member of the Nuyorican literary movement and is cited by poet and scholar Dr. Urayan Noel as the bridge between the founding Nuyorican poets and a new generation informed by slam and deaf poetry. Her book, Shameless Woman, became an instant classic and is included in college and university syllabi throughout the U.S. In 2011, New York City's Pregones Theater selected from her poems and monologues to produce Dancing in My Cockroach Killers, a musical on cultural resistance, and honored her as a National Endowment for the Arts Master Artist. After successful runs in New York City and Los Angeles, the show will have a Washington, D.C. premiere this summer at the renowned Gala Hispanic Theater. Her most recent play, Erased, a poetic imagining of the life of Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, is currently a finalist in the National Latinx Theater Commons Plays competition. Her play, Perfectamente Loca, Perfectly Insane, was a winner in 2015. Her poems, essays, and plays are widely anthologized in venues that include the Massachusetts Review, the Progressive, Berkshire Journal, Ollantay Theater Journal, and Skyhorse Publishing, among many others. Ms. Gomez has been a radio commentator with New England Public Radio and also writes for the African American Point of View. In addition to an impressive schedule of speaking and teaching engagements across the country, she is the co-founder and artistic director of Teatro Vida, the first Latin theater in Springfield. Teatro Vida was founded to build youth leadership through the arts with a special focus on the creation of youth-generated multimedia performance works in collaboration with professional adult artists. Teatro Vida's open mic series, Ignite the Mic, creates a venue for artists of all disciplines, ages 12 to 25, at the Bing Arts Center in Springfield, where Teatro Vida is in residency. Ms. Gomez has been a powerful contributor to the region's art scene for years and has touched almost every corner of the region with her work. New England Public Radio is proud to honor her commitment to developing a passion for the arts among women and young people, and for sharing her unique voice with those in our community and on the national stage. So please, won't you join me in congratulating Magdalena Gomez?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, that's gorgeous. Thank you. So the first thing I'm going to ask is, I was told there's good Wi-Fi in the room. Please go online. I'm not kidding. And I want you to find www.teatrovida.com. That's TEATROV as in victory, IDA.com. I'm auditioning for the radio. And then I would like you to look at the tabs. And the fourth tab to your right says supporters. And if you scroll down, you will see the hundreds of people that have supported us over the years. I couldn't possibly name all of them. ¿Verdad, Maria Luisa Arroyo? Right, Evan Plotkin? Right, Frederick and Marjorie Hurst, and the Ferocious Women, and Rosemary Tracy Woods, and the Art for the Soul Gallery, the only African-American owned and run art gallery in the Pioneer Valley, and don't miss it, it's better than Soho. And Michelle Latender, who just did a benefit for us, and my husband, who I'll talk about later, he's adorable. And so they only gave me 2 minutes for thank yous. So that's why I wanted you to go to our site, because we value every single person who has been part of us and who has made our work possible. I can't thank you all by name, but I assure you that your names will live in the hearts of all the young people and women and audiences whose lives you've touched, and will live in perpetuity in the Thomas J. Dodd Research Center at the University of Connecticut at Storrs, where my archives are housed, and will hold the history of Teatro Vida. That list of good and generous and loving people will also be included, because all of them, Brian Hale, you know what I'm talking about, Deanna Chrislip, the Bing Art Center, you know what I'm talking about. All of them have been integral to our success and our continuation. Those of you who are here who've supported Teatro Vida either by attending events, through promotions, word of mouth, as artists, participating youth, young adult leaders, donors, funders, in-kind supporters, volunteers, venue providers, ferocious women, and all friends who make my life, my work, and my stamina possible, please raise your hands. Oh, there are a lot more of you than that. Don't be shy. So I want to thank you, and I thank you, New England Public Radio, for this very great honor. And to all who have nominated me throughout the years. And I thank Dr. Steven Wittenberg when he called me with such love and generosity of heart. We'd never met and felt like old friends. And to my husband, a special thanks, James Lescott, Director of Amherst Media, whose unconditional love, constant support, and tireless documentation of all Teatro Vida's work ensures that the legacy of our collective efforts, ours, will live on. And now I thank all of you who will silence your phones. And I want to honor New England Public Radio, and I also wish to honor the co-recipients of this award. I did research into all of them. Yes, I stalked you on Google. And your work is magnificent and moving and beyond worthy. And so I dedicate this to all of you, to my friends, and to New England Public Radio. It is called On Reflecting on Arts and Humanities. Grace is solace on horseback. Writing a firstborn note, the conductor's baton rises and restarts our hearts, suspended on longing's long-held breath, resurrecting our wonder from unannounced death back into memory's embrace. Brackish waters rise, we stand together at the feet of the new colossus. Her torch grows dim. A child's torn dress gathers dust in the place where her dreams had been. Grieving turbulent skies tear open peak holes for God's eyes, who by all appearances has been on vacation. I suspect he's been profiled. I suspect he's death by paranoia. I suspect he's been wrongfully incarcerated by solitary confinement of our selfie narcissism, preoccupied less with who we are than how we appear. I fear that God has decided to wait us out, make his absence felt, as if he were never there to begin with, as if he was a she, as if he was non-binary. Unnameable, too big to conceive, we conspire to contrive what we want to believe. Let there be something with or without name that is greater than you and me. Reprieve, redemption, revolution. Isn't a revolution 360 degrees? Another way to see. Grace is solace on horseback, riding the firstborn note. The conductor's baton rises, restarts our hearts suspended on longing's breath. Long-held breath, resurrecting our wonder from unannounced death back into memory's embrace where clear water touches the lips of our empathy. The desiccated fingers of a bewildered boy pull up mud somewhere in a place with a name we cannot pronounce. The conductor's baton rises, firstborn note, morsel of moist bread reaching around the world. We stand together on betrayed earth, exploited for her beauty. She has lost her sense of worth. When pages of books turn, we miss her, seek and court her, beg her to heal her sorrows before she's too far gone. We follow farmers and bees, keepers of our destiny. We who are not alone must go out and seek those who are. Words were knots in my mother's eyes. There are many who know so much with little chance to realize. But here you are, one word, one page at a time, undoing knots with patient hands so history might rise, pulling blade from sheath, gently coaxing clean blood from sealed wounds, where sighs of knowing link one word to the next, forming sentences that will interrupt the sentencing, will stay executions with or without governors. Societies betrayed set themselves free. Ink is the blood that teaches peace. We stand together against depravity's walls, pocked by hatred's stones, where ignorance crushes its own soul, keeping strangers with cures too far from our disease. Doors lock from the outside. There is a golem's greed to please. Demons transfuse their secret despair. Our fatigued eyes see monsters when only we are there. Here you are to open doors, confound the abyss by building a floor. Not a place on which to fall, but a place on which to stand. When suspicion makes a fist, you build trust with open hands. We stand together in the rubble of the untold truth, constantly in trouble. Rebellious in nature, refusing to conform, demands venue. And here you are. Here you are, giving truth the floor. The ones who kneel, the ones who stand, the ones who tip our garbage cans. From the hells of J Block to Syria, to Yemen, to Gaza, to Gitmo, to Honduras, to Sudan, to Iraq, to Iran, to the Bronx, to the very streets where you've planted your feet. You who fight to keep truth relevant. You who know and tell the secrets of a human-made hell. Puerto Rico, where a storm proclaimed Maria takes the blame for the rape of a nation robbed of its very name, Borinquen, by a 100-year-old hurricane. You pull back the curtain on this ethnic cleanse. You amplify the sound of muffled blame. Atrocities are born to parents with names. You are the roll call. You are the roll call of their shameless shame. They're not so secret crimes in these most brutal, avariciously consumptive times. Grace is solace on horseback, riding the firstborn note. The conductor's baton who rises, restarts our hearts, suspended on longing's long-held breath, resurrecting our wonder from unannounced death back into memory's embrace. The new Colossus sends no child, no dream away. You who live and create for justice, you are the revolution of grace. Thank you.
Wow. Now from one transformative medium to another. Recognized as a conductor of extraordinary versatility, Carolyn Kwan has enjoyed successful associations with top-tier orchestras, opera and ballet companies, and festivals worldwide. Her commitment to contemporary music has defined her approach to programming and established her as an international resource for new music and world premieres. Ms. Kwan has cultivated a unique expertise in Asian music and contemporary works. She's directed the annual San Francisco Symphony Chinese New Year concert. She's led world premieres for music from Japan and has conducted multimedia productions of the Butterfly Lovers Concerto and A Monkey's Tale as part of the Detroit Symphony's World Music Series. The Hartford Symphony Orchestra named Ms. Kwan as its 10th music director in January 2011, the first woman and youngest person to hold this title for the symphony. Since beginning her tenure, she has led the Hartford Symphony to new artistic heights with community-minded concerts and innovative programming. Last season, she introduced the Symphony's Intermix series, an interactive, intimate series of concerts that take place in unique locations in and around Hartford. Intermix showcases traditional and contemporary composers, giving the audience a truly up-close experience with the musicians. She is a true and valued asset to the greater Hartford arts community, and New England Public Radio is proud to recognize her with the Arts and Humanities Award this year. Before she comes up to accept this award, we are happy to share a short video created for tonight's celebration by the Hartford Symphony Orchestra.
When the Hartford Symphony was looking for a music director, I thought this would be amazing. This would be like my dream orchestra.
She's really taken the audience and the orchestra itself on a wonderful journey of exploration.
I absolutely love the traditional repertoire, but I also conduct opera. I also conduct ballet, and I love new music. I just always welcome new ideas.
We are exposing our audiences to something new and exciting in every concert.
And audience response has been fantastic.
It's always a surprise. I love the creativity, I love the innovation, and I love where it takes me.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is fun. It's a lot of fun. You don't need to be intimidated. There is something for everybody.
It's really great being up close as an audience member with world-class musicians.
When you're leaving the hall, after some performances, you'll hear the audience members singing, humming, whistling the themes that they just heard, because it's great music.
I think it's really important for the Hartford Symphony Orchestra to try to reach more broad and diverse audiences. For example, we have our summer Talcott Mountain Music Festival, which includes concerts ranging from great classics to disco and Latin American dance music.
I've been active in the Symphony in the Schools program of the Hartford Symphony for many, many years. I think I probably played in every single elementary and middle school within the city limits of Hartford and in a lot of the surrounding communities as well.
I'm always impressed with the questions afterwards from the students and the depth of which they're really listening. They're really involved in the music. It's always good to know that you've affected someone's life and you've given them an interest that they didn't have before.
I have watched kids come to the symphony who maybe are playing piano or playing the violin, and all of a sudden they get to talk with one of the professional musicians. And that's what having a professional orchestra in a community does, especially for those who don't have any other access to this kind of music.
We have a great responsibility to really build meaningful bridges to the people in the community.
It's this idea of making a difference and giving back that really drives me. I believe music is a vehicle to making a difference.
Please join me in welcoming Carolyn Kwan.
Thank you very much. You know, for some of you who don't know this, actually, growing up in Taiwan, I actually thought that I would be an investment banker. My very first orchestra that I ever heard and sing was actually my high school orchestra at the Northfield Mount Herman School. And I will never forget, I remember thinking that the bassoon was a very unusual and odd and funny instrument, and that's how much I knew about symphony orchestras. Because of one amazing, passionate, and caring music teacher, my friends and I discovered music. And we didn't know it at the time, but it moved us deeply. It brought us joy, it brought us sadness, inspiration, and it made all of us a little bit more in touch with our emotions, as teenagers love to do. So in college, the plan was to I studied economics in preparation for my career as a banker. But as it turned out, the most inspiring professor I had were my music teachers as well. They were my voice teacher, they were my choir and orchestra conductor. And my fellow music students couldn't have been more different. We came from different country, we came from different background with different beliefs, but music was our common language. And it's been a long journey, and it's sometimes tough, but the last few years, it's been an absolutely privilege to be the music director of Hartford Symphony Orchestra. And you know, in trying to, we share, trying to make a difference through music. And if any of you know anything about conducting, you know that I can wave my arm all day long and there's no sound. See, there's no sound. I'm waving my arm, there's no sound. It takes really an orchestra to actually do anything. And so similarly, you know, everything we're able to accomplish or trying to accomplish, none of it's possible without a fantastic executive director as my partner, without a dedicated group of musicians, staff member, board members, to make that possible, as well, of course, our community and the audience giving us their trust. So, in this day and age, in the current divisive and often violent world that we live in, we more than ever, we need music, we need arts, we need amazing words to live our spirit and to really remind us that, as human beings, that we share more than we are different. And that, at least for me, music is universal, it crosses boundaries. Music is about inclusion, it's about celebration, it's about transformation. Music is about beauty, and we can all use a little bit more beauty in our lives these days. And, I have to say, there's so much work that still needs to be done to continue to be an advocate. And I want to thank all of you for being here today, being an advocate of humanity and arts. And I also want to actually take a moment to share with how important it is the music education is. And I want to actually just recognize my 3 music teachers that are actually in the audience today. And of course, and my partners and friends at the Hartford Symphony Orchestra who make this journey possible. Sheila, Karen Johnson, will you stand? Steve Collins, Jeff Burney, Pam, and I am, and Michael Yaffe, and I am so grateful to all of you for making all of this possible. Thank you and I appreciate for the award, for giving us the opportunity to, be together and for this award. Thank you very much.
I'm just thinking as that poet Robert Nesta Marley said, one good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain. There are really no stronger or truer testimonies to the transformative potential of literature and the arts than that offered by Literacy Project students themselves. Tonight, you will hear from 4 students who will share their words with you. But before we welcome them to the stage, a bit more about the Literacy Project. It was founded in 1984, first on a short-term grant from Greenfield Community College, and then as an independent nonprofit agency. It now offers free adult education classes in Greenfield, Orange, Northampton, Amherst, and Ware, with a staff of 20, a team of 75 volunteers, and an active board. Each year, some 300 adult students, including immigrants and refugees, formerly incarcerated men and women, young mothers, recovering addicts, and homeless veterans, as well as long-standing members of our community who, for one reason or another, did not graduate from high school, discover the pleasures of reading and writing, gain personal confidence, and sharpen their reading and writing skills in preparation for the high school equivalency test. Some of them enroll in college. Others find rewarding employment, but nearly all of them come to appreciate the liberating power of the word. The Literacy Project's students contribute to the Valley's cultural scene through coffeehouse-style public readings, where they stand with pride before public audiences. They've also published 3 books of student work. All 3 are available in the lobby tonight for a small donation to the Literacy Project. The power of connection and inclusion that the arts and humanities affords us all, the ability to read and write and tell our own stories, enables these adult students to engage with pride and confidence in the cultural life of their communities, Their imaginative and intellectual journey strengthens us all. Their stories enlarge us as a whole. So please join me in welcoming Judith Roberts, the Executive Director of the Literacy Project, to the podium.
Greetings. We're very honored, deeply, deeply honored and grateful for this award. And tonight, I want to celebrate the Literacy Project, our 300 courageous adult students that come to our classrooms every year, our inspired and inspiring teachers, our board of directors, our many, many wonderful volunteers, our staff, our long history. Our two of our founding directors, Lindy White and Phil Rabinowitz, are here with us tonight. So I want to celebrate all of us at the Literacy Project, and also I want to celebrate our many generous community supporters that keep our doors open so that we can hold the door of opportunity open for our students. And many of them are here tonight. And I want to celebrate NEPR and the great work that NEPR does, keeping us all informed and musically adroit. I've been listening to NEPR for a long time. I remember when I opened my restaurant in Amherst in 1973, starting the day with Robert J. Does anybody here remember him? Yeah. And so after tonight, we can all say, we are the Literacy Project. And who are we at the Literacy Project? Well, Kari talked a little bit about it. We have 5 classrooms, Amherst, Northampton, Greenfield, Orange, and Ware. And we have approximately 300 adult students that come to us every year who, for one reason or another, and there are as many stories as we have students, did not complete their high school diploma. So they come to us to take the HiSET, to prepare to take and pass the HiSET test, formerly called the GED, and now called the HiSET, High School Equivalency Test. And they study 5 subjects: reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. But along the way, our students fall in love with reading and writing. And I'll tell you a quick story about one of our students, Benny. Benny was a Vietnam-era veteran, my age, and he fell on rough times and became homeless and wound up at the shelter at the VA hospital in Leeds. And Benny found his way to our Northampton classroom. He told me that he had not been able to read any better than following the sports scores in the newspaper for his favorite team. But he read his first book in our class at 66 years old last year. Benny read The Color of Water by James McBride, which, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a great book. And Benny, it was very important for Benny to take and pass the high school equivalency, the HiSET test, because he would get a raise and a promotion in his job at the VA hospital, and he would also be able to move out of the shelter into independent living. So passing the test was really important. But when I asked Benny, I said, so now that you've read your first book, The Color of Water, what are your plans? And he said, I just want to read and read and read. So one of our supporters, one of our longtime friends of the Literacy Project said reading, it's just essential. It's like breathing. And I would add that reading and writing are like breath for us. The reading is the inhalation, where we take it in. And the writing is the exhalation, where we put our thoughts down on paper to share with others. At the Literacy Project, we've long believed in the importance of connecting literacy with literature, of the connecting with the arts and the humanities. And for our students, I think telling their stories, and for all of us actually, telling our stories, whether it be in music, poetry, prose, dance, it's the thing that helps us to bridge our divides and connects us all, our common humanity that we share. So tonight, we're going to have 4 of our students in just a minute. They'll come up and they'll share with you some of their words that we published 3 anthologies in the past few years. Special thanks to Mass Humanities Foundation for their support. We've published 3 anthologies, 1 of poetry and 2 of memoirs, and you'll be able to pick up a book outside of the dining room. We hope you'll leave a little small donation if you can to help us with the publishing costs, but do help yourself to a book. Our latest anthology we made last fall, and it's called Important in My Heart. And the work we do is important in our hearts, and I know you'll feel the same way when you hear our students. So tonight, we're going to have Minju Yi, Alicia Cox, Preston Carr, and Priscilla de Lima, and they're going to do a very short recitation of some of their words that come from the memoirs. These are tiny excerpts from the memoirs they wrote. We'll just take 1 minute and you'll see on your seat, you might be sitting on it, we gave you a little program. Do you see it with the colored pictures on the front? So that if you like, you can follow along with us in your program. So just take a minute to locate. It's kind of dark in here, isn't it, for reading? Well, anyway, you can listen and see our bold and beautiful students as they recite some excerpts from their work.
Long, summit, proud, unfamiliar, kindness, genuine, loving, happy, regret, and memory. These are our stories.
Hello, my name is Minju. I'm from South Korea. In South Korea, I was a supermom working and supporting my family here. I'm not as super as I was in South Korea, but the literacy project have helped me take my reputation back. So once again, I'm a supermom. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia, and I hope to attend college. I'm interested in studying people.
I'm Preston from Massachusetts. I attend the Literacy Project in Amherst, Mass., and I'm preparing for college.
Hi, my name is Priscilla. I'm from Brazil. I'm studying English, and my goal is to speak fluent English.
Hope,
Powerful,
confidence,
safe,
progress.
We are the Literacy Project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Literacy Project. Well, this year, in honor of the 10th anniversary of recognizing the incredible talent here in Western New England, The NEPR Foundation Board created a new award to honor those who've been at it for a while. Tonight, we are happy to honor David Tabaldi with the first ever Arts and Humanities Lifetime Achievement Award. After 33 years as Executive Director of Mass Humanities, David Tabaldi will be retiring in October. During his tenure, Dr. Tabaldi has overseen funding and implementation of hundreds of programs that have made the humanities available to the public of Western Massachusetts in innumerable ways. One groundbreaking example of this work is the Clemente course in the humanities. Offered locally in Springfield and Holyoke, the Clemente course offers low-income adults tuition-free, college-accredited introductory classes in the humanities. For the more than 400 graduates of the Clemente courses that Mass Humanities has offered in the region, the study of literature, art history, moral philosophy, and American history has provided an inspired gateway from one reality to another. A core endeavor of Mass Humanities over the years, the Clemente Course Program was awarded the National Humanities Medal by President Obama in 2014. Stepping outside the classroom, communities in Amherst, Charlemont, North Adams, Pittsfield, Plainfield, and Springfield have participated in Mass Humanities Reading Frederick Douglass events. Those are annual public readings of Frederick Douglass's famous 4th of July address, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." In 2016, Mass Humanities established public humanities centers locally at Berkshire Community College and Holyoke Community College to help them present forums and panel discussions, book and film discussion programs, author talks, documentary photo and art exhibitions, local history programs, and other public humanities programs for both students and people living in the region. And in addition to these types of programs, Dr. Tabaldi has overseen the allocation of millions of dollars toward hundreds of public humanities programs throughout the Valley. And in many instances, he took part in the on-the-ground operation of those programs. Organizations like the Springfield Museums, Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services, the Care Center, the Literacy Project, New England Public Radio's Media Lab program, numerous local filmmakers, and hundreds more have benefited from Mass Humanities grants and partnerships under his leadership. As one of his nominators wrote, "A defining characteristic of David and his leadership has been his personal engagement, accessibility, warmth, and passionate commitment. He has left his footprint in every community in the Valley, and I cannot imagine who will fill his shoes. We owe him this recognition and our very deep gratitude." And we could not have said it better. New England Public Radio is proud to honor Dr. David Tabaldi with the Arts and Humanities Lifetime Achievement Award tonight. But before we welcome him to the stage, Mass Humanities has provided a short video that highlights Dr. David Tabaldi's many contributions as Executive Director of Mass Humanities. Enjoy.
I know of no safe repository of the ultimate powers of government but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their authority with a wholesome discretion, the cure is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion. By integrating the humanities into public discourse and community life, Mass Humanities fosters the Jeffersonian ideal of an informed and enlightened citizenry.
David Tabaldi, in 33 years at the helm of Mass Humanities, has nourished our democracy and our culture, invigorating arts, music, conversation in a livelier society for all of us.
We read to our children because we're told it's a good thing to do. It's hard to find the time to discuss, but once you're sitting in a program like this, you realize the discussion is just as important as the reading.
Family Adventures in Reading gets kids excited about books and ideas. inviting them to share and reflect upon the stories they read. It's their first step toward joining the civic conversation.
Kids have a lot to say when they're given the chance. I love that this program can do that for kids. It can empower them.
There's no moments for self-reflection built into the normal day of a physician's schedule. And these writings, these stories that we read, they're fiction, nonfiction, poems, essays, plays, allow us to tap into reflections on those experiences.
Literature and Medicine is a program that invites doctors, nurses, and social workers to look at their work through the lens of literature, helping them to find new ways to connect with patients and each other.
We can express with one another our frustrations, our difficulties in taking care of patients, our personal failures that allows ourselves as physicians to heal and also allows us to take better care of our patients. In this region here, there's always something new to learn.
It's been literally a life-changing experience. Before I took the Clementi course, I thought humanities was very boring and not really realistic to my life. And after the Clementi course, I realized that it's essential for you to also understand where you are, where you're going, and what kind of contribution you can do to life.
The Clementi course is a college-level seminar for people living in economic distress. By furthering their educations, Clementi graduates become role models in their families and leaders in their communities.
Every Tuesday, Wednesday, I was looking forward to going to class and not missing anything. I feel like I came out of the shadow and stuff, and it's like, yes, there's a light and I can see it.
In addition to ongoing programs, Mass Humanities also provides grants to community-based projects like What's the Big Idea?, which uses popular film clips to teach middle school students ethics and philosophy.
People think, middle schoolers, that they're not old enough to think ethically about life. And they are. They're ready.
The kids talking to each other convince themselves of the importance of ethical behavior. And I think that that's much more likely to stick. And so our hopes are that we'll be developing the sort of concerned citizenry that's essential to a democratic society.
It's very expensive to build a website like this, and we never would have been able to do it without support from the Mass Humanities.
Mass Humanities funds and know-how have supported thousands of programs and projects across Massachusetts, bringing people together for lecture series, panel discussions, oral history projects, museum exhibitions, plays, and documentary films, leading to countless hours of conversation and civic engagement, building the commonwealth of Massachusetts. Here's to you, David, and here's to Mass Humanities' continuing support of public conversation all over Massachusetts. As Thomas Jefferson wrote, the people are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty.
Join me in welcoming David Tabaldi to the stage to accept his award.
Good evening. When Steve called to tell me I was receiving this award, my first reaction was, I don't deserve it. But Kari has talked me into it. Thank you for that. But I have to say, listening to Jazz Safari on Saturday night doesn't have to be sad at all. You know, it really depends what else you're doing and who you're doing it with. I want to congratulate my fellow honorees. It's an unexpected pleasure to be recognized alongside Magdalena Gomez, Carolyn Kwan, and especially the Literacy Project, whose important work has received support from Mass Humanities many times over the years. A 91-year-old friend of mine who has received his measure of well-deserved honors, and many in this room know, I'm sure, as the longtime publisher of the Springfield Republican, once said that a person should not be honored for doing his job. Well, I have to admit it. I've just been doing my job for a long time. And I cannot claim my lifetime achievements as my own. All the good work of Mass Humanities is a result of many minds, many hearts, and many hands. I've been blessed throughout my tenure with a talented and dedicated staff. All my current staff is present tonight, by the way. It's dark, but please stand up and have a round of applause. An ever-changing but always extraordinary and dedicated board, and many of our current and former board members are here tonight. Crucial support from the academic community, from the philanthropic community, and from folks throughout the Commonwealth who believe in the power and pleasure of the humanities. Many of those folks are here tonight, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. A Lifetime Achievement Award is bittersweet. It makes one feel appreciated, of course, but it carries the unavoidable implication that something's coming to an end. You're done now, if not with life, then with achievement. Be that as it may, I am deeply honored and humbled by this recognition. In preparation for this little talk tonight, I went to find a poem. Yeah, crazy, right? Trying to find a poem when we've got these wonderful poets here tonight. But, to close with an appropriate poem. I didn't find a poem, but I did find something really interesting that I think works pretty well. It's an inspiring quotation attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson by no less an authority than Ann Landers. In fact, it has nothing to do with Ralph Waldo Emerson. It appears to have been written by a Kansas housewife in 1905 in response to a national essay contest sponsored by a Boston advertising firm. By the way, she received a prize of $250 for this essay. In today's dollars, that's around $7,000. For a 96-word essay, that's pretty good. And her essay was called What Constitutes Success? It was published in the Emporia Gazette in Emporia, Kansas, in December of 1905. And it's only 96 words. What is success? To laugh often and love much, to win the respect of intelligent persons and the affection of children, to earn the approbation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to give of oneself, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To have played and laughed with enthusiasm and sung with exaltation, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have achieved success. Thank you again.
Thank you, David Tibaldi. And thank you to all of this evening's awardees. It's an impressive class, don't you think? joins the 28 other well-deserving members of our arts community that have stood in their place over the last 10 years. And I welcome you to meet this year's awardees along with the many previous recipients here with us tonight as you enjoy your dinner in the Grand Ballroom. Can I just say about Jazz Safari for those... I'm so glad that you listen, whether it's by yourself or with somebody else. And as I mentioned, usually we take you on a journey through the jazz world and beyond. Well, I want to thank you for allowing me all these years to travel with you, to be a part of your life's journey. Whether it's listening to Jazz Safari or Jazz a la Mode or classical music, or all the other programs that you tune to, that you help support financially, we could not be here without you. We've said it during fundraising times, but thought we'll say it again. We could not be what New England Public Radio is without your support. So we thank you and we salute you for coming out and celebrating these deserving honorees of the Arts and Humanities Award. Asante Sana, thank you very much. Now, before we move on, we have just one more very special surprise for you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Springfield's own Sci Tech Band, winners of the 2012 Arts and Humanities Award and the Pride of Springfield. Oh yeah!